Today I'm going to be working in the kitchen, doing a little bit of batch cooking for some easy breakfast things that I want to get ready for the freezer. Also going to be just sharing a real quick and easy dinner recipe. And then lastly, showing you guys some of the things that I've picked up recently from a local thrift and antique store, and some different things for my kitchen. So first, I just want to say welcome back to those of you that have been subscribed for a little while, and those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Haley. I like to make videos that have to do with homemaking and homeschooling, so I'm usually sharing things that are going on in the kitchen or things that have to do with different school curriculums and things like that. And today is going to be one of those days in the kitchen. So the first thing that I'm doing is getting some chocolate chip pancakes ready. I was actually making chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast this morning anyways, and I decided to just go ahead and double the recipe. If you hang around here for any amount of time, you'll pick up on the fact that I like to double recipes like this pretty frequently and then put half or more than half of it into the freezer just for a future date whenever I'm not wanting to pull out all the ingredients and make something from scratch. I can still have homemade baked goods in the freezer that I can pull out instead of buying the frozen pancakes from the grocery store or something. This gives me more control over the ingredients that go into the things that we're eating, but still allows me to have the convenience that some of those store-bought items offer. So making up a big batch of chocolate chip pancakes this morning. Here in a little bit, I'm going to be making some blueberry muffins. Pancakes and muffins both freeze really well in my opinion, and then you can just put them in the microwave for like 30 seconds and they're ready to go. So I will have the recipes for both the chocolate chip pancakes and the blueberry muffins down in the description box. You could substitute the chocolate chips in here for blueberries, or you could just leave the add-ins out altogether. I like to put the chocolate chips in the pancake because then my kids don't even want syrup or honey with it. I can just get them warm for them and they are good to just eat them without the sticky syrup, which is nice whenever it's for breakfast. And I'm not necessarily wanting to have to go clean up a bunch of sticky little hands. We do our morning time also during breakfast time where I'm reading from our history, our Bible, and our read aloud book. We do that over breakfast while they're eating. So, not having sticky hands during that time, if they're wanting to look in the picture book or something, is nice. So I'm just getting these all cooked up on the griddle part of my stovetop. And you can see that it made a nice big stack of pancakes. My kids, these were thick. So my kids actually, they're pretty young. They only ate one each with some fruit, and that was filling for them. And then to get them ready for the freezer, you just let them cool. And then I like to put them out on a cookie sheet like that and put them in the freezer so that whenever I transfer them into the Ziploc bag, they don't stick together as much if I freeze them individually on the pan like that. So now it's a little later in the day, and I believe on this day we had been doing school. So we went ahead and done our schoolwork, and now I'm going to start getting some things ready for dinner and then go ahead and make those muffins here in a minute also. So what I'm doing is putting a big old piece of frozen chicken leg quarters into my Instant Pot. That is one of my absolute favorite things about the electric pressure cooker, is that you can put frozen meat in there, like chicken, and it will cook it from frozen for you in a fraction of the time. So now I'm just going to let this cook. Whenever it's done, I'll debone it and shred it because I'm going to be making up some white chicken chili for dinner this night. I wanted to show y'all some of the things that I have found at the thrift store recently. So I have been trying to buy some of the things that I want for my kitchen at the thrift or antique store just to add some character to it. So the first thing, I was needing a ladle, and I found this one with a wooden handle on it. So I picked it up. I think it looks better than just a old plastic one. Then I found this rolling pin that has definitely seen better days, but we're going to sand it down and put some mineral oil on it. It was only like $1.99 at Goodwill, so I grabbed that. I also found this vintage Pyrex loaf pan. So I only paid $4 for this at one of the antique shops. So even though it's not an antique, it is vintage, and I am excited to use this when we're making our homemade bread. I also picked up these two big stainless steel bowls for $10. They'll be useful this gardening season whenever I go to bring things in that I need to wash. And then the last two items are just some decorative items. So this was Depression era glass. I'm not really sure where I'm going to use this at, but I thought the pink color was really pretty for springtime, and it actually matches what I use for my sugar bowl that I got from my pawpaw, which is actually also Depression era glass. And then we found this plate at Goodwill. My aunt actually bought it and then gave it to me. It was like $1.99, and I just love the colors in it. Even though it has a little chip on the side of it, I think I'm going to put it in my kitchen somewhere. I feel like the pink and the greens will go well in my kitchen. It also matches my copper butter dish that I have, so you'll see that here in the next clip. But yeah, I think that it's going to match everything really well, and the pattern was pretty on it. One of the other things that I recently picked up is that little basket that you see in the background that has my cookbooks in it. I grabbed that at, I believe it was Goodwill also, for just a few dollars, and I wasn't 100% sure where I was going to put it. But when I got it home, I thought I can put my cookbooks on that and kind of leave some of them out on display. So that's what I'm doing with that right now. But now we're moving on to making some of those blueberry muffins I was talking about. It is just a very simple and basic muffin recipe. I'll put the link to it down in the description, but it's just flour, sugar, baking powder, egg, milk, and melted butter, I believe. And then you can put your blueberries in. You can use either fresh blueberries or frozen. I'm using frozen because that's what I had. And you just mix it all up in one bowl and put it in your muffin tin, and that's it. I have found that sometimes I have to adjust the milk measurements that go in there just based on the type of flour I'm using. I buy different brands of flour all the time, so sometimes it will soak up more milk, and I just add, a little bit more milk until it gets to the consistency where it's like a muffin batter. And then the blueberries, I don't measure. I just dump them in there. And like this, I just had a few left in the bag, so I thought, what the heck, go ahead and throw them all in there. So they were pretty heavy on the blueberries, but my kids didn't complain. And like I said earlier, muffins also freeze really well. So I did double this recipe. I ended up making up 2 dozen of the blueberry muffins. And there they are. I think I ended up freezing a dozen of them. The other dozen got wiped out pretty quickly. I'm going to have to start, before too much longer, making 3 or 4 dozens at a time. Having growing boys, they don't tend to last very long. Okay, now I'm going to start making our dinner. And I mentioned earlier that it is a white chicken chili. I also shared in my meal plan that I will be making that this month. So I'm getting those chicken leg quarters out of the Instant Pot. You can see that the chicken's just kind of trying to fall off the bones, so you have to move it kind of carefully to keep it from dropping everywhere. But I'm going to start the process of deboning that chicken once it gets cooled off. And I am going to save the chicken broth that I got from putting that water in there and then the chicken cooking down in it. So I'll use that as the base in my white chicken chili. So just pouring that into these mason jars for now. And then here in a little bit, before I pour it back in there, I will strain all the little bits that are kind of in there from the chicken cooking. Now, the reason I took the broth out of my Instant Pot is because I want to saute down my onion. And then I'm going to start adding everything back into the pot. That is cream cheese that I like to put in there. I've not figured out a way to not get the cream cheese to be kind of clumpy at the end of it. So I put it in there. It gets soft and it blends up pretty well, but you still have a couple of little chunks in there. Maybe if I had like an immersion blender or something. I don't know. I don't have an immersion blender to try it out, but it doesn't bother us having those little chunks of cheese in there. They're pretty small at the end of it. So just putting the rest of my ingredients in there. I used a can of chopped green chilies, put my seasonings in there. We add in canned corn or frozen corn. I usually put some white beans in there. I think this time I'm using Great Northern beans. I rinsed those off first because canned beans always have that thick juice in there with them. So I like to rinse them off. That's my shredded chicken going back in. And then my chicken broth that I reserved from when I cooked my chicken earlier. Then I just put my cream cheese in there, let it cook for about 15-20 minutes, and that is it. We like to eat it with tortilla chips and some shredded cheese, maybe some jalapenos and avocados, but it is a super simple and quick dinner that everybody enjoys. So I thank you guys for hanging out with me again today in the kitchen, and I will see you in the next video.